You've always feared the wrong thing about Tyrannosaurus rex. For a century, the movies sold you a monster, but the truth is stranger, because everything about this animal was, literally, wrong. Too big, too fast to grow, too strong to make any sense at all. Take any single piece of it to a biologist, and they will tell you it should not function. And yet all of it did, every impossible part working at once. A bite that by rights should have shattered the very skull producing it. A body that grew so violently fast it should have collapsed under its own weight. This was not evolution being clever or elegant, it was one idea pushed too far. It sits at the very edge of what a living body can do, in some ways past that edge. And it did not just survive, it ruled this planet unchallenged for well over 1 million years. So the real question isn't what it was, it's how something this broken became the most successful predator of its age. This is Lost Continent. Tonight we open the case file on the animal that broke the rules of biology and got away with it. Stay to the end, because the reason evolution allowed something this extreme is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Start with the mouth, because it is here before anything else that the numbers stop making sense. Ask a simple physical question: how do you bite down hard enough to crush solid bone without crushing your own skull? Every force you generate pushes straight back on you. A bite this strong should be suicidal. And yet the estimates put its bite near the very top of any land animal ever measured, enough pressure to pulp bone into paste. It could bite clean through the pelvis of another dinosaur. That is not a mouth, that is a machine. A force like that should crack the skull generating it, so look closer. That skull is full of holes in a pattern scientists still argue about. You can see it in the real fossil. Somehow those gaps did not weaken the skull, they channeled the stress, a head built to survive its own bite. And here is the unsettling part. Of everything we are about to look at, that record-breaking bite was the least strange thing about this animal. Because before it could bite anything, it had to grow, and it grew in a way nothing that size should survive. A young T-Rex was slim, long-legged, genuinely fast, dusted perhaps with feathers, almost a different animal from the monster it would become. Then in its teens, it entered a growth spurt so violent it packed on hundreds of kilograms a year. For a few years, it was gaining body mass at a genuinely disturbing rate. In almost any other animal, growth this violent overloads the heart and buckles the bones under their own weight. So what kind of body doesn't just survive being built that fast, but comes out the other side stronger? This one did. It came out of that brutal decade as the largest land predator its world had ever produced. And the whole impossible process took under 30 years. Built at a speed that should have killed it, and the body it ended up with broke yet another rule entirely. Now look at the finished, full-grown animal and something about the proportions feels wrong. That instinct is correct. A skull well over 1 meter long, jaws that could crush a small car, all of it carried somehow on just 2 legs. And then there are those arms, almost comically small against a body that size. For a century, nobody could agree what they were even for. The secret to the whole design was the tail, a muscular counterweight that turned the animal into a living seesaw, balanced almost to the kilogram over its hips. Up to 9 tons poised over its toes. Shift the math a little either way and the whole thing topples. So how did blind evolution land on numbers this precise purely by accident? Hold on to that question. We come back to it at the very end. Now go inside the bones themselves, because they were living under forces that, in most animals, would simply snap them. Cut a T-Rex bone open and you find a dense, reinforced internal structure unlike almost anything its size, built at the microscopic level to take punishment. And you find something chilling: healed fractures. This animal broke its own bones and simply kept going. Injuries that would end most predators were, for this one, just scars. Picture a 9-ton body slamming into living, struggling prey over and over for decades. Every hunt was a small, controlled catastrophe, and its skeleton simply absorbed it. Which brings us back to the question we keep circling: what was this animal doing on a hunt that needed a body this close to indestructible? The answer is written in the teeth. and they are nothing like the thin, curved fangs the movies showed you. Forget thin, slicing blades, its teeth were thick, deep-rooted, reinforced. Paleontologists describe them as closer to bananas than to knives. Some the length of your forearm, root included, built not to slice but to punch through and crush. It did not delicately carve meat off a carcass the way most predators do. It bit straight down and took the bone with it. It is the only known animal that habitually pulverized the bones of its prey. And when a tooth finally broke on all that bone, another was already growing in behind it, an endless supply. A bone-crushing weapon on a near-indestructible body, grown at an impossible speed. Put it together and one last question becomes impossible to avoid. Why did evolution allow all of it at once? Because on paper, from a pure survival standpoint, a predator this enormous is a genuinely bad idea. A giant hunter is a gamble. Everything about being this large works against staying alive. The bigger a hunter gets, the more it must eat, and the harder it becomes to feed a body that expensive. It is why most giant predators across the whole history of life are evolutionary dead ends. A full-grown T-Rex needed enormous amounts of food, almost constantly, just to keep that oversized engine running. By every efficiency rule, it should have been too slow, too hungry, too costly to last. Instead, it sat at the very top for the rest of its lineage. Every rule said an animal like this should not work. It worked anyway. So we arrive finally at the question we planted right at the start. Why would nature build something that seems to break its own rules? The uncomfortable answer is this: it did not break the rules at all. It followed them faithfully straight off a cliff. In a world of giant armored prey, every extreme paid off. Bigger one, stronger one, a harder bite one, so evolution kept pushing with nothing to stop it. There was no built-in upper limit, just an arms race between predator and prey, running for millions of years with T-Rex as the final, extreme escalation. We know it and its armored prey shared the same world, because sometimes they were buried in the same ground 66 million years ago. And this is the thought that should sit with you after the video ends. If blind pressure alone can build something this extreme, this close to a malfunction, then the real question was never how T-Rex existed. It is what else evolution is capable of building, given enough time and no reason at all to stop. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was never a monster that beat the rules. It was the rules themselves, taken all the way to their breaking edge, and against every expectation, it ruled anyway. If you want to keep opening case files on the impossible animals of the deep past, follow the expedition, because some of the others make T-Rex look almost reasonable.